Perfect. Okay, let's see.
We'll go ahead and.
Are you all seeing that?
No.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Hi, everyone. I know a lot of you haven't met me yet, but my name is Lilybeth. I am the new Aim to Dream coordinator. I started like a week ago, so this is probably the first time many of you are seeing my face. But we're hosting a workshop in partnership with Immigrants Rising to teach you all about the seed grant that they have available for you all today. And Danae is here from Immigrants Rising to share with us a little bit more about what that is about.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that I could be one of your first presentations now that you're taking over the work with the undocumented student community. Hi, y'all. As Lilybeth mentioned, my name is Danae Joseph, and I'm supporting Immigrants Rising as an entrepreneurship support specialist. And so what that means is we're really just trying to get as many people as possible to really understand exactly what Seed Grant is, who it benefits, what kind of businesses you could have, how much you're eligible to apply for. Are you able to see my screen now? Just want to double check.
Yes.
Okay, so a little bit more about why I wanted to do this work. So we've had 3 previous rounds of seed grant applications. This is the 4th and final for this cycle, right? And so before, there was an ongoing conversation about how we could get more people. And for me, I've always worked directly with colleges and universities, not just in California, but across the nation. And so one of the things that I saw was a gap in whether or not we were reaching out to college and university students. And as someone who's a Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals recipient myself, someone who attended UCLA, go Bruins, I understand that oftentimes it is in your college experience, your university experience, that you really want to pursue entrepreneurship, right? But you might not know exactly how to do it, or you know exactly what to do, but the capital, the money just isn't there to be able to get your business off the ground. So here's a little bit more about Seed Grant, right? So Seed Grant, for those of you who might not know, before we get started, we're going to talk about a little bit of objectives, right? So we can have an understanding of exactly what we're going to go over today. Feel free that as you have questions to go ahead and ask them, because I know a lot of times we get to the very end of these workshops and presentations and there's just no time for Q&A because I want to be respectful of everyone's time, right? So first and foremost, we're going to go over the eligibility requirements for the Seed Grant. We're going to go over the steps to apply for a Seed Grant, and I'm really going to try to offer you the keys to success, right? The best practices for how you can apply for this grant. Because a lot of people unfortunately make minor mistakes that could cause them to not get the Seed Grant. And so I want to really use the experience that I have in looking over the applications and doing reviews of people that I've either selected or not selected and tell you the reasons why, right? And it's not all the time that you could get an opportunity like that to hear from people who review about what went wrong. Oftentimes they're like, you didn't get it, that's it, right? Moving on, apply next year. But we really want to make sure as many people as possible get it. Alrighty, so what is the Seed Grant? So first and foremost, there was a conversation with the Governor Newsom, about the resources or the lack thereof that was being provided to members of the immigrant community in California. And so we saw that there was a gap. And so myself and a few other entrepreneurs engaged in a conversation immediately after the Supreme Court decision on DACA with the governor the same day. And so one of the things that came up in that conversation was about whether or not the state of California was really putting their money where their mouth is, right? You say that you support immigrants in this state, but what are you doing to make sure that, especially in the midst of a pandemic, that people are being adequately supported? And this was early on in the pandemic, June of 2020, before that. And so the previous year, we had the California legislature actually approve Assembly Bill 82. And so what that went ahead and did was created the Social Entrepreneurs for Economic Development, right? And so what that was able to do was really allow them to engage in a conversation about how to better support entrepreneurs in the state. And so with partner organizations, we have 8 partner organizations along with Immigrants Rising. We were founded in 2006. And before there was even a social entrepreneurs for economic development, there was Immigrants Rising, who was really providing opportunities to individuals who in a pre-DACA world did not know how to navigate really being able to work and being employed and employing other people. And so the way that we were able to do that was to be able to teach people how to be entrepreneurs, right? Because that's one thing that can't be taken away from you. Yes, you may be sin papeles, but you can't take away my mind. You can't take away my ability to, create a new revenue stream for myself and my family. And the best way that I could do that is not by being employed by someone else, is by employing myself, right? And making sure that I could create an avenue. Okay, so what is the seed grant? The seed grant is $5,000 and $10,000 grants to be able to support immigrants in this state. It has to be either a business or nonprofit. It could be a hybrid model, one that is a nonprofit and a for-profit, because such a thing does exist, right? And so the way that we're looking at who qualifies for the $5,000 versus who qualifies for the $10,000, you'll qualify for the $5,000 if your business or nonprofit has made less than $100,000. If you've made over $100,000, you'll qualify to apply for the 10,000, right? So it's not as simple as I want to apply for 10,000. No, you would have to be able to prove that you've earned more than $100,000. Now, if you haven't even started your business yet, but you have a business plan, you have an idea, you have a business model, all you need is the initial capital to get it off of the ground, to be able to apply for different things, to be able to purchase the supplies. This is also for you, but instead of the 10,000 for established, right, more mature businesses, you'll go ahead and apply for the $5,000 grant. And so what is the point of all of this? Why did the state of California feel it necessary to really use Assembly Bill 82 to be able to get the money from the surplus to give toward immigrant entrepreneurs, right? It's because when we look, especially during the pandemic, who did we see take the brunt of the pain of the pandemic? We saw individuals who were a part of historically disenfranchised communities, Black, Latinx, Indigenous people who suffered more than other individuals because unfortunately, a lot of us, right, our aunts, our uncles, our moms, our dads didn't have the privilege of being able to work from home, right? I'm able to do that. That's a privilege, but not everybody can do that. And so the state of California recognized that there was something that needed to be done to really bridge the gap. I don't know if you all know, but when the stimulus was being given out, the way that the previous administration did it was they prohibited individuals who were immigrants from being able to get any sort of stimulus. Right. And so literally just because of their status, if you are a couple, one who is a citizen and one isn't, they prohibited you from being able to get the stimulus. So this really is something to try to fill that gap, to showcase the talents of immigrant entrepreneurs across the state of California. Alrighty, so let's get to the nitty gritty of all of this. Who can really apply, right? Because I know a lot of people might be like, oh, that sounds great. $5,000, I need that now for my business. So California residents, individuals who are either growing or starting a business or nonprofit is eligible to apply. So here's the one major component that we ask people. We ask that your business or nonprofit really address a social problem or community need. What do I mean by that? I mean that it shouldn't just be about making money, right? It's important that you be a social entrepreneur, and that word will come on, that term will come on a little bit later. But what that means is that instead of just seeking profits, you're looking to address a community need or problem. So for instance, someone who pitched an idea said that they wanted to create a yoga studio in the community that they come from, because they realized that unfortunately being a part of that community of historically disenfranchised people, that they often didn't have access to yoga, right? And as a result of that, they wanted to bring mindfulness and wellness practices into the community. And so that's the reason that they pitched a yoga business to us. So here's one of the things that we require from you all. So you have to be a California resident, starting, growing a business, but you also need to identify with at least one of the following. You could have one or more, but you need to at least have one of the following. And that first thing is you either need to have limited English proficiency, meaning you speak Espanol, you speak Tagalog, you speak Korean, you speak Haitian Creole, right? You speak Arabic. We're looking for individuals who may have either limited English proficiency, or we're looking for someone to be a non-US citizen or lawful permanent resident, meaning a green card holder. So individuals who may not be lawfully present in the United States, but we can also accept individuals who have DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals, individuals who have TPS, or individuals who have nothing at all, right? Because not everybody has DACA, not everybody has TPS. So if you have nothing at all, that's okay too. You can still go ahead and apply for this opportunity. And so, do you have to live in California? Again, yes, you do. Here we have Uncle Snoop reminded you that yes, you do. Okay, because unfortunately, a lot of people tend to tell people from various states about the seed grant. And for right now, this is something specific to the state of California. So here's another component that comes up, right? People ask whether or not their business, even though you may be a California resident, you know, some people do business out of various states, even though they reside in one. So your business doesn't necessarily have to be registered in the state of California. So it's available for individuals who are residents in California, but your business and nonprofit does not need to be registered. So for instance, a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs and they want to be a business owner, but they may not have it established formally as a LLC, a limited liability corporation. They might not have it established as a C Corp, right? They may not have it established legally on the books. However, that's okay. You do not need to be registered in order to apply for this, because of course, if you are in the introductory stages of your businesses, we don't expect you to have it registered yet. So here are some things that we've had. I really wanted to give you an idea, a little bit of an overview of the sorts of businesses that we've had incorporated in order to have people apply for this. We've had things like eloterias, we've had taquerias, we've had beauticians, cosmologists, we've had artists, painters, right? We've had, like I mentioned earlier, yoga, individuals who are doing yoga, individuals who have done photography, but we've also had people who are doing the traditional modes of entrepreneurship like tech. We've also had people who are looking to build businesses in order to better support members of their community through clinical practices. We've had restaurant entrepreneurs, right? There's so many different ways that you could really, apply for this funding, and so many different businesses that you could have. So here's the thing. One part of the seed grant application, we ask you to be able to give us a budget, a small budget overview that really tells us about what you're planning to use the seed grant for. So even though this is a one-time allocation of $5,000 for businesses under $100,000 and $10,000 for businesses over $100,000, we do ask that you provide us with an overview. So here's what seed grant money can be used for, right? It can be used for anything pertaining to your business or nonprofit, meaning the incorporation of your business, licenses and permits. For instance, a lot of people would like to have a taqueria. However, in order for you to be able to have a taqueria, right, you need to be able to have a permit, a food handling permit and license and things like that. So in order to get that off the ground, you know that those are the licenses and permits that you're going to need. So you could use it for that. You could also use it for education. What do I mean by education? I don't mean like, okay, I'm in college, university right now, I need that money like a financial aid check. That's not what I mean. I mean, you could use it, for instance, there's a lot of career/professional development workshops workshops, trainings, conferences, right? So if you know that you would like to work in tech, for instance, as a Black woman, if I say that I'm interested in tech, okay, Afro Tech is a major conference that they have every year. Okay, great. So let me go ahead and apply so that I could use this money to take me to Afrotech. If you know that there's a conference, that there's something that you could do to get the training to further your business, you could use it on that. You could also use it on marketing, right? What do I mean by use it on marketing? You could use it for Facebook and Instagram ads. You could use it to create flyers, right? You could use it to hire a graphic designer or a website developer that's going to create your website, or that's going to create the marketing materials that you need so that people can know about your business. You could also use it for supplies, right? Whatever you need for your business to be successful, you could use it for supplies. You could use it for all things pertinent to employees, whether that be payroll, paid leave, insurance premiums. You could also use it for capital and overhead. So if your business is being ran out of a rented space, you could use that toward your rent. You could use it toward the mortgage of your business. And for instance, there's been a lot of COVID protocols for businesses, right? So we know during the pandemic, a lot of businesses have either had to shelter, they've had to close their doors, they've had to bring in PPE to make sure that their employees are safe, or maybe they've had to make changes as far as the build of their restaurant or their business to make sure that it's secure for their clients. Anything like that, you could use the seed grant funding for. So I just incorporated this little gif of Dave Chappelle with his money, because hopefully that's going to be you once you're able to secure your either $5,000 or $10,000 seed grant. So here's how to apply, because this is where a lot of people get confused, right? I've had so many emails, so many questions about how to apply, because people do one section of the application and they feel like they're done. The application is broken into parts. So I'm going to need you to pay attention to this section in particular, especially closely. So first and foremost, you need to create a Spark account, right? And I'm going to show you what that looks like shortly, but I'm just going through the steps. Create a Spark account, and you need to register for the entrepreneurship training. Then after you've done that, you've completed the entrepreneurship training, you need to submit the online seed funding application. Here is the major aspect of this. The applications are due May 1st. I know that is not a lot of time. You maybe feel overwhelmed at the prospect, but I could guarantee you, if you dedicate a few, maybe an hour and a half per day to try to complete it, you could get things off the ground. It is due May 1st at 11:59 PST, Pacific Standard Time. So do not miss that deadline. So what you'll go ahead and do after that, you'll go specifically, and you can navigate to it right now. So spark.immigrantsrising.org, and I could show you exactly what that page looks like from here. So this is what the page will look like. I'm not sure, it's still loading up for me. So at the very beginning, you'll see an introductory video that tells you briefly about what the seed grant is. So a little bit of what I said to you today will be in this video, right? It tells you spark your entrepreneurship dream. Choose your journey and sign up. Okay, great. So if you're ready to apply for seed funding, you could select this. I'm ready to start or grow my business. So you'll go here, you'll get started, or you could go ahead and click yes, get started. And once you click that, you're able to create your Spark account from there. Are you all able to see that okay? From the immigrantsrising.org website, get started. Once you click that, then you're going to be able to register for your entrepreneurship training. Okay, so something else that will pop up. You'll have a lot of modules. What do I mean by that? These are individual sections about entrepreneurship that you will be expected to complete And then once you've completed those modules, you'll have to complete worksheets. So for instance, these are the steps that you will have to go through. Starting a business. In each of these sections, what you're going to go ahead and see, you're going to see sections that tells you a little bit more about each of these categories. So you're going to see small video clips or read-ins that tells you about starting a business. You're going to see small clips that tells you about marketing and promotion. And then once you've completed the worksheets immediately after each of these modules, you'll be able to see that the application itself will open up. That's a major thing because a lot of times people complete the modules and then they feel like they're done, right? They're like, okay, I did my part. No, you need to complete the modules, complete the worksheets, and then after you've done that, you'll see that the seed funding application will open up for you to be able to do anything else. Remember earlier, I mentioned the importance of being a California resident. So we do need some form of documentation. Even though you're able to be a DACA recipient, a TPS recipient, to be completely undocumented, we do ask that you provide some sort of documentation. Why is that important? Because we're receiving money from the state of California, it's important that you be able to document that you're a resident of this state so that Shirley Sue from Denver, Colorado isn't getting money from the seed grant. So we ask that you have some sort of photo identification that provides proof of your residence in the state. So you could use your driver's license. I don't know if a lot of you have had to go to your consulate, but I know that consulates do provide you with a consular ID, specifically the Mexican consulate. I know my consulate, Soy de Belice, provides one. A partner organization ID, for instance, I mentioned earlier that we do work with 8 other partner organizations. Some of those partner organizations provide IDs, identification cards for their members. So you're able to use that. We do ask that if you use an unexpired passport, right, meaning from the country of origin, that it be accompanied by a bank statement or a utility and medical bill or your mail. So for instance, if you know that you have that unexpired passport from your country, from the Mexican consulate, from the government, you could go ahead and use that, but make sure that you pair it with a bank statement so that we're able to doubly understand that yes, you're a resident, but you also need to be able to provide additional documentation of your address and things like that. Okay. So if you have a current business, a business that has and continues to make money, then you'll need to provide evidence of total annual business revenue. What does that even mean? Okay, that's a whole bunch of wording, total annual business revenue. So what we mean by that, the seed grant was established in 2020. That's when we were launched. And so we expected people to be able to provide the 2020 tax return or the 2021 tax return. We just passed that deadline. So if you can't find 2020, no problem, go ahead and use 2021. If you have a profit and loss statement, a balance sheet or financial statement, either of those things. Now, here's the thing, right? If your business is not registered, then technically that means that you have 0 total annual business revenue, right? Because you're just getting it off the ground. If that's the case, then more than likely you will not have to provide any sort of financial statement because you do not have an existing business. Is everybody clear on that aspect? Because I know that's a little bit more technical, but if you have an existing business, then you'll be asked to provide the total annual business revenue. However, if you are a business that is just being proposed or getting off the ground, then we do not expect, your annual business revenue because you were just getting started. Alrighty. So here's something that we have that I think is so phenomenal. We have a preview of the seed funding application. I think that is the most legit thing that I've ever seen from a grant application. I don't know how many of you have applied for grants, but more often than not, they do not provide you with an overview. You get started and you're like, okay, this is going to be a great 30-minute application. And then before you know it, you're spending 3 hours trying to complete the grant application because they did not give you a preview of what to expect when navigating the application. However, Immigrants Rising, we didn't do that to you. We tried to make it as easy and as efficient as possible. So on the website, you'll find a seed funding application overview. This tells you about all of the questions, all of the worksheet answers that you'll be expected to give, and it just lets you know how to better prepare. Meaning that if you'd like, you could use this as a reference point to start crafting your questions, your answers to these questions, and then let that guide you so that you can be better prepared to put it on the actual application, right? So I think that's an incredible resource. So I'm going to go ahead and click it for you all, so that you could see a little bit more about what I'm talking about. So here's the seed funded application preview. So it tells you a little bit about exactly what I just went over, that you must either have one of the following: have limited English proficiency, be a non-US citizen or lawful permanent resident. And then you also need to understand the types of grants, which I've gone over with you. Here's the requirements that we ask all over again. And now here's the great part. Here's the application questions. Now, here's the thing. If you maybe know someone who has limited English proficiency and as a result needs the application in Espanol, you could get that. If you know a friend or a family member who's in need of Tagalog or a Korean, they're eligible to get an application in those designated languages, okay? So the responses that we get from you will only be shared internally. It's not gonna be used outside. We're not gonna use your information and share it around. That's not gonna happen. Alrighty, so I want to go ahead and point out some important aspects of the application that during the last round of review, I thought people didn't do a good enough job in really being able to explain. And I really want you all to take note of this section, because the way that Seed Grant works is that when we review these applications, we have a rubric, right? Just like when you were in maybe primary school, your teachers had a rubric for how your grade would work. So we have a rubric as well. And so all we do when we review, we're looking to make sure that you're touching those pieces in order to get the points for each section, right? So I'm just giving you a little bit of insight. And so if you find yourself barely answering the questions or not really hitting these points, then unfortunately, you're not going to be selected to receive a seed grant. Alrighty, so we ask you for things like this. We ask you about the location of your business. Is this something being ran from your home? Is it being ran from a mobile business? Is it leased? Is it owned? Then we ask you about incorporation. Here are the types of business incorporation: a sole proprietorship, a partnership, C corporation, S corporation, an LLC, a worker cooperative, a nonprofit. There's also hybrid models. We ask you to write the date and when you created your business. And we do ask you to tell us a little bit more about how much time you've spent on your business or a nonprofit. So here's something else. If you're really not sure what industry area your business falls under, it gives you a nice overview of the types of businesses, and maybe you could find your business model in these descriptions. If not, you could go ahead and submit other, that my business actually does not match any of the previously aforementioned sections. It's this. Then you could go ahead and write that. Alrighty, so here's the important part that I wanted to discuss with you all. It's all important, but these parts I think are where people go wrong. The description is okay. You're able to just give an overview. This is so important. This is basically our introduction to your business. I don't know how many of you have ever gone on advocacy trips, right? If you've ever gone on student advocacy trips, then there's certain things that you want to be able to do. You want to know what your pitch is, right? So for instance, if I'm creating a business, I am a business owner, I am an entrepreneur, right? So my thing is I do not just consulting services, but various engagements across the nation. Okay, so for instance, for me, the reason that I created my business was because I saw that there was a gap in the way that immigration was being discussed, not as a Black issue, not as an AAPI issue, but solely as a Latinx issue. As a result, I started to provide consultant services for the nation's immigrant rights organization so that they could get a better understanding of how to better amplify messages pertaining to immigration. So that would be my pitch, right? Maybe not the entire pitch, but at least you get a bit of an idea of exactly what that would look like or sound like. So here's another really important aspect. A lot of people just tell us about their business or nonprofit, but what they fail to do is connect it back to what it means for the community. Anybody could really be an entrepreneur, right? Anyone can start a business, but what makes you the best person to really address the needs of your community? Because you could tell us, I want to make money. Okay, that's great. But if that's the case, you could probably apply for another source of funding. You could go for another grant. We're looking for individuals who are really seeking to address the needs of their community or really discuss a social problem. So use this section to tell us a little bit more about why you are selling, organic food at your restaurant. You're selling organic food at your restaurant because, for instance, maybe your community resides in a food desert. And as a result of your community being a food desert, you as a restaurateur wanted to create healthy food options that would be able to bridge that divide. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of snippets, right, as to what to expect. And I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes to allow us time to really discuss any questions or concerns that you may have. So this is another important section. If you've ever had to do your personal story, if you've ever had to submit that for a scholarship, then this is that section for this application. We need to know a little bit more about yourself. What is your immigration story? What made you want to be the entrepreneur that you are right now? How has those obstacles in being able to seek traditional modes of funding? A lot of immigrants are unable to work in traditional workspaces. As a result of that, we're forced to create new avenues to be able to thrive as individuals. So tell us about that journey. So here's another thing that you could really use this section to shine, right? Use this section to tell us about how you've been impacted by COVID-19. For some people, they maybe worked in the gig economy, or they may have done things that required them to work with clients. And as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, we're no longer able to have the same customer base / clientele. Tell us about maybe the fact that your family contracted COVID, or that you yourself contracted COVID. And if you didn't, tell us about maybe how your job was impacted, how your ability to employ other people was impacted. And so here's another really important section. Okay, I want you all to look at this section and tell us a little bit more. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is the section that I told you all about was so important earlier. It's about creating a budget for what you're requesting. So for instance, if you're requesting $5,000, right? And you're telling me that you're in need as an entrepreneur, but yet when I see your budget is only accounting for $1,500, right? 1,500 out of 5,000, then I'm going to look at that as a reviewer and say that you don't need it. Right now, if you're saying I'm applying for $5,000 and you're in need of 2,500 for a contractor, for a consultant, and you're in need of another 2,500 to be able to get the permitting and the licensing, or to be able to buy the materials that it takes for your business, that's different. Use the budget to tell us everything that you plan to spend the money on. And the reason that we ask for that is because we're going to need receipts, right? You can't just say that I need $5,000 and then the next thing that we know, you're in Turks and Caicos, right? We need you to be able to provide documentation that you've used the $5,000 in the way that you've said. Okay, here's another really important section that I feel like people don't pay attention to, and that would be about what kind of additional support that we as Immigrants Rising can provide you with. This is so important, and I think a lot of people just skip this section. This is important because Seed Grant is a one-time grant opportunity, meaning you're only getting it one time. So, okay, would you rather $5,000 one time and the support of Immigrants Rising, an organization that since 2006 has been helping immigrant entrepreneurs? So go ahead and select this section. For instance, say that you want to start a business, but you don't have a social security number. You're in need of an individual taxpayer identification number, but you don't know how to apply. We could tell you about that. If you need help trying to incorporate your business, we could help. If you need help being able to file as a nonprofit, we could assist with that. If you're confused about what filing taxes as a business looks like, we could go ahead and provide that. Now, what about immigration legal support, access to higher ed, review and contracts? Just go ahead and select all of the sections that you're in need of support of, and we'll be happy to follow up and provide you with that assistance on top of the potential grant opportunity funding that you may receive. Okay. So last, but certainly not least, after you've completed the application or before you've completed the application, we ask that you go ahead and send an email to entrepreneurship@immigrantsrising.org, or well, maybe depending on the time that you finish. So for instance, if you have a question tomorrow, you could go ahead and request a time to speak to one of the support specialists to get more questions answered pertaining to your application, right? So you could go ahead and request maybe a 30-minute, a 45-minute, or an hour time slot with one of my coworkers to learn a little bit more about it. We also ask that you use the upload section to go ahead and provide a copy of your photo identification with your California address. And we ask that you upload your business either 2020 or 2021 tax return as well. Okay, so this piece would probably be the last, is the certification statement. So we ask that everything that you've provided on the application be 100% truthful, and to the best of your knowledge that you've not deceived, purposefully, willfully deceived us in the process of submitting your application. And I know that should be obvious, but believe it or not everybody's transparent. Alrighty, so here's some important links. So immigrantsrising.org/seed grant, the frequently asked questions. And if you go to that first page here, immigrantsrising.org/seed grant, then you'll have links for everything that I just mentioned. You will see the link for seed facts, the FAQs, the frequently asked questions. Then you'll also see the guide that tells you a little bit more about the application process. And you'll see the link for you to be able to register for seed grant and applying for seed grant. And below that, you'll see the link for the preview of the application process. So everything is centralized on the immigrantsrising.org/seed grant page for you to be able to learn a little bit more about. So again, apply by May 1st, 2022 at 11:59 p.m. Anything later than that will not be considered. Thus far, we've had more than 300 applicants. It's a small team of people. In the previous cycles, we've had maybe 700 people to date apply for a seed grant. And so far, we've already received more than 300 applications. We're a small team of less than 10 people reviewing 300, 400, 500 applications. So please be mindful that after you submit, you might not hear back for a while, but trust that we'll be reviewing the applications in a timely fashion and making sure that all of the individuals who have submitted have a fair shot at review. All righty. And that's it for me. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen and really use this as an opportunity for you to ask any questions or to be able to voice any concerns that you might have so far. Does anyone have any questions or concerns? Don't be shy. I know there's questions because every workshop that I do, there's always a question about the application process. There's always people who are concerned about whether or not their business is viable to receive this grant. And you won't have another chance like this. The application is due on the 1st, right? So if you have any questions, this is your time to really ask them and speak out. Isabel?
Yes, for me it's everything okay. Sounds good.
Oh, everything sounds good for you. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lorena?
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I could hear you. Thank you.
Yes. So I don't own a business, right? I would have to come up with something, but I do know people that own a business. I know someone that owns an automotive. Would he be able to qualify?
Yes, yes. Anyone that has a new or existing business and is either completely undocumented or has limited English proficiency is eligible to be able to apply for the seed grant. So once he has like an idea of a business plan, how he plans to grow, things like that, and you could support him with the application process, he's more than welcome to apply.
Okay, and another question. I also know someone else who is a home caregiver. Are they able to apply for something like this?
I did see someone who was a caregiver applying for these funds. Yeah, so we did have a previous applicant who received it and was a caretaker. So more than likely, yeah, you should be able to apply. Are they the ones in charge of a business?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And I also know someone that does cleaning. Are they able to apply?
Yes, I forgot to mention that as one of the options earlier when I was going over the businesses. But yes, if someone might be doing cleaning services, if they might be doing mowing, right? We have the individuals who are able to take care of the lawn and all that good stuff. All of those individuals are eligible to apply. This is the first of its kind. We don't have any age limit, right? Meaning we've had individuals as old as 70 years old with businesses being able to apply for this. We've also had individuals like yourselves who are college and university students being able to apply for this grant. So we do not discriminate. We urge people from all different backgrounds and businesses to really capitalize on this opportunity to apply.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have a question on the chat from Estefania asking, what if the business is shared with another person?
So if your business is shared with one or two other individuals, then only one person will be expected to apply. So you could work on it together, but it has to be under someone's name in particular. So it can't be one business and three of you apply, right? Because that would be for the exact same purpose. So just select one person to go ahead and complete the application, because the funds, if selected, would need to be dispersed to one person in particular. No problem, Estefania.
And then I had a question. So for example, if there was a business that was started off at home, like for example, childcare, and if they submit an application, would they get in trouble for previous, for having or managing the business without any official licenses or anything like that?
So we're not checking any of that, right? To really know. All we're asking is that if you know that you need a license and a permit to be able to do that kind of daycare, then that you submit that you're going to be doing that, right? So we're not going to condone anything that's being done out of the way. We just urge you to be honest and to be transparent. And even though you might not have had it before, at least if you're going to be getting $5,000, then we should be able to see that you know that there's certain licenses that you have to get in order to continue to run that facility, even if it's from your home.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. But you're not going to get in trouble with us, but I just urge you to go ahead and make sure that you know that, and that when the budget comes up, or when the section about what kind of licenses will you need, that you go ahead and make sure that you write out, okay, I know I need a permit to be able to handle children. I know that I have to go to X, Y, and Z training. So you create a budget for that, just so that we could see, because I'm sure people will ask, right? Well, in the application review, we'll be like, I wonder if that person knows that they have to do this, right? How long have they been running the business without this, right? So yeah, just go ahead and try to do it. Is there anyone else who has any questions or concerns, or maybe has a business idea but not sure how to create a business plan for it, or might be a little bit confused as to whether or not they're eligible to apply? Or is everyone good?
Hi. For me, I'm curious, well, is there information of like past seed grantees?
So we do have some sections that tells you a little bit more. I'm trying to see if I could go back to my shared screen so that I could, look for a link about that. But I know we do have some people who have received entrepreneur grants from us, and basically those people would be some of the same individuals. Let's see. Okay, no, that's not it. Okay. You know what? Let me go ahead and I'll look for that, and I'll go ahead and send it to Lilybeth so that she could get that over to you all moving forward. Okay. But we do have like a PDF that tells you a little bit more of some people that have received not seed grant, but people that have received funding from our entrepreneur fund, which is basically similar to what we're dealing with now. But I can tell you, we've had individuals who have done floral design. We've had individuals who have done taquerias, people who have done things like that, right? So we're pretty open. We've had individuals who have a music company, right? Supplying music for various companies and for various films and things like that. We've had individuals who have been DJs, right? We've had individuals who have created a button business, right? We've had artists, we've had poets. There's so many different people who have been considered for funds from the entrepreneurship fund. So don't shut yourself off. Don't feel like you're ineligible just because of your business idea. I'm sure that whatever your business is, we'd be willing to work with you. But I'll send it to Lilybeth as well. Anyone else? High school students. Yeah, well, yeah, we should be open to that for the most part. Yeah, because there's no age limit, right? So we don't ask that the person be from X, Y, and Z age group. So yeah, you're absolutely right. There's so many lash techs, there's so many MUAs, there's so many people who are doing cosmetology beauticians, right? So yeah, definitely, if you can, tell them about this opportunity.
After they're selected, do they get any type of training, or do they work closely with Immigrants Rising?
So the section earlier where you go ahead and select, excuse me, the section where you go ahead and select a little bit more about the support that you need from Immigrants Rising would be the perfect section for that, because all this is grant money, right? So we're just giving you the coins that you need. But the section that you'll go ahead and fill out has to be the section about what additional support do you need from us. That's where that training kicks in, right? Because it's one thing to get the funding, and it's a whole other thing to really be able to build and grow as an entrepreneur in the state of California. And for you to be able to do that, you should definitely take advantage of the resources that Immigrants Rising has to offer.
Thank you. And then will they also have access to the trainings that they do before the application?
So if you're in need, I think for the most part, we've wrapped up trainings, but let me go ahead and see. I'll send that to you in the wrap up, Lily Beth, where on the website where it asks that if you need additional support, you could go ahead and click that section or send an email. You're able to do that, right? Because most of the trainings that we have coming up are for specific communities, right? So because we're so close to the finish line, we don't really have diverse arrays we did before of X, Y, and Z training throughout the week. So yeah, so please go ahead and send an email once I send it to Lily Beth if you have any additional questions or concerns.
Thank you so much, Danae.
Sure, no problem.
Are
So-
there any other questions?
Exactly. Don't be shy, y'all. I'm telling you, the application is due on Sunday. You may not have any questions right now, but when you get started, you're going to be like, wait a minute, I should have asked. Okay. Well, it seems like you all are pretty confident in your ability to apply, and I'm confident in your ability to apply as well too. I'll just say take your time, be as thoughtful as possible with your responses. Think about the fact that this could be your first time to make a good impression. When I look at applying for something like this, think about it like a Shark Tank, a virtual Shark Tank, right? Where if you've had a Kevin O'Leary, we've all seen Shark Tank where he's just harsh, right? And think about pitching to someone like that. We have a team of people who've read through hundreds of applications. So at this point, we don't need anyone who is BSing. We need people who are ready to go, have a concrete idea of their business, and is ready to present it. So think about that. Think about the fact that we've read so many different ideas and descriptions of good, solid businesses, people who have been able to make inroads in their community, and really just try to use that as your basis to apply.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to do this today.
Of course, and thank you. Thank you for letting us know that you wanted to do this, especially so soon into you joining the team. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. You have a good one. Oh, and
Bye.
let me go ahead and put my email. I'm sorry. So that you all